Hi, I'm Rose, and this is the Sovereign Soul, where I talk about soul freedom within this lifetime and body and without. I have been coming across a lot of information about a lack of motivation and drive through spiritual awakening, and it is a common experience. And you only really find that out, I suppose, if you're going through that and searching and looking, or maybe just coming across information. But the reason behind it, in a nutshell, is that we are letting go of old social conditioning, and we having to move to a whole new way of living inside this body with an awakened consciousness. And awakening is a process, it's a non-linear thing. It's about seeing truth as opposed to living behind this sleep veil of what our existence was prior to this awakening experience. And the ego is something that fights for its survival all the time. It's going to do everything it can to keep strong. And part of awakening is understanding the ego, seeing the ego, and then making free choices aside from the ego. Before that, the ego used to rule the show. That's being asleep. But when you understand the ego and you see it, it can't play games with you anymore, but you have to see it. And the ego is really all about the social conditioning, wherever we got those ideas from, those beliefs, and they will control your life. So when a person's going through this awakening process and understanding, oh, this is how I've been operating, this is how I can operate, and this is how I am going to operate, there is a process. That ego is going to still try and pull you in, but also it's a process to let go. We don't just go from one moment to the next. You're going to wake up and go, oh, the heavens have opened, and there's like this full-blown self-actualization. It's a process. It's a process of getting to know yourself and to remember yourself as the divine part of yourself. It's escaping all the matrices that hold the energy of earth in place as it is. And so how do you go through these stages, and how long do these stages last? Well, it's going to be different for everybody. But I would say that the main thing that a person needs to understand when you're sitting in that place of lack of motivation and drive, I suppose we all have a different reason for that. Maybe it's just because you've had the realization that nothing actually fucking matters. And so you could go through like a nihilistic phase where you realize any meaning that's in your life is what you create of it. It's your perspective, and you're the one who controls that. And so that can cause a nihilistic effect, which can definitely cause a lack of drive and motivation, because now you're doing something because it makes sense to you, and it doesn't really matter what impact it has on the world anymore, because you realize that everything is perfect, and all the chaos, there is still a perfection. So I'm not talking about a nihilism of disconnecting and shrugging away from the choices you'd made prior to an awakening, because some people, such as myself, still got a life. I've got 4 children, and I've continued to show up for them in these 9 years that I've been going through an awakening, and I'm still there to, run my household and work and create an income, because life still demands, we're still living in the matrix, but we're learning that we're not of it. And so in order to move past those stages of a lack of motivation and drive, you have to, or you think you have to, rekindle a sense of purpose and a sense of meaning in your life. And I'm not saying that when a person's sitting in a place of not feeling purpose or meaning, that means that there is none of it. Like I say, we create that for ourselves, or that you have to have this deep sense of purpose for fulfillment in life. I think learning that you create that for yourself, and understanding that you're not going to have purpose in the same way. You're not going to find meaning in the same way, because the way we find purpose and meaning is through social conditioning before the awakening. You find it through social conditioning. When you realize that the things you believe to be true, the stuff that you aspire to, the goals that you have, all of that was linked to an idea you thought you needed to have to fit into life. And it's only after you awaken where you go like, hey, I don't think I fit in that way anymore. And that doesn't mean you don't fit in anymore, because you're here, you're living here, you exist here, which means that you very much still belong. We all do. We are all part of the whole, and we're all a little piece of consciousness that is um, experiencing itself. But in order to move through that space of not feeling motivation and drive in a spiritual awakening, the answer is surrender. The answer is to flow, to not keep holding yourself accountable to the things that you thought were important before. Even the tools you used to self-soothe or to move through difficult things before don't necessarily apply. You're becoming a new person, a new version of yourself, a new person with a new landed consciousness. And so the only way you're going to reach the new shores is to let go of the old. And that is the tricky thing, because the ego is still going to try and hold you into these old things. And that's how you know yourself. So to have a paradigm shift, to go, oh, I don't do things that way anymore. I don't feel things that way anymore. You don't recognize yourself as you were, yet you're still trying to live in the role of yourself. And you have to become aware of that to go, okay, that's who I was. This is who I'm in the process of becoming. I don't know who I'm going to become, because we don't, not essentially as we are. And I'm okay to let go of what I think I know, to empty myself again, to become full of something new, of who I am and maybe have been all the time. And that is the process of finding motivation and drive again. It's not going to come in the same way. You're not going to have the same association and understanding of those words, but you certainly are going to stop fighting yourself to be what you think you needed to be and how you fit into the world. And you're just going to allow yourself to just be whoever it is you're becoming. And that will put you in a deeper state of presence and being here now, without a judgment. That is really the only way that we can move through that process, because the only way to the other side is through. But the more you fight and resist and try and fit yourself back into that little mold, the harder it's going to be for you to get to the next stage, because the resistance and the pushing is what's keeping you in where you're at. You've got to kind of lie in the river that's flowing and just let it take you.